Ever since the tax regime has come into the UAE, everybody has been looking to minimize their tax exposure, and as a result, a number of companies that were set up as BVI companies, Panamanian companies, Guernsey, Jersey companies, if they were simply holding companies, are trying to exit from these jurisdictions and perhaps move into the UAE and set up a holding company here under one of the financial market structures. So to recap some of my earlier videos, the UAE is a civil law jurisdiction, but as a result of an amendment to the constitution, two of our financial free zones were carved out of the constitution, which meant that they could have their own legal framework, and they are largely modeled on common law frameworks, which is like English law, Australian law, and other laws where there is binding precedent and there is a different form of legal procedure followed when it comes to court systems rather than the civil law system, which operates in the rest of the UAE, which is more codified law like the Napoleonic codes and the Egyptian codes. I digress. My point is that the ADGM, or the Abu Dhabi Global Markets, was a great place and is a great place to set up holding companies, and we do end up using that as a structure on many of our transactions. And the Dubai International Financial Center, or the DIFC, was somewhat left behind as they had some peculiar provisions that didn't allow us to always have flexibility in our holding structure if it was being set up in the DIFC. However, that has now slightly changed, as the DIFC has set out some new guidelines and new rules around this prescribed company structure and regulations. It has worked towards making it more flexible, so therefore you can own GCC assets through a DIFC prescribed company or a PC now. It has allowed for a 6-month grace period, so you can set up the company and then acquire your asset potentially 6 months after the setup of the company, so you have your entire structure and everything in place. It allows you to use a corporate service provider, or a CSP as we call it here, which allows you to potentially minimize your costs of office space and things like that, because you can use the CSP for all of the corporate services that you would need, including like a registered office address. So there have been some really good changes, which means, in my view, I think, the DIFC also becomes an attractive proposition once again. It was a little bit losing its charm for me when I was advising on structures because of the reasons I mentioned. So I think these changes are really good, and it shows, again, the move of the UAE and the thinking of the UAE towards understanding that corporate tax will have an impact on overseas structures where the management is actually run out of the UAE, which means they need to bring back some of those assets into the UAE and perhaps manage them from here. So that's it from Think Tank today. DIFC, new regulations around prescribed companies. Thank you so much for watching.